From a health standpoint, how much did the bye week change things?
Yeah, it was good because we had a lot of guys that were nicked up. I think it was good for Nick Jackson. Proud of the way he's attacked his recovery. It was good for Ahern. Probably Ahern will probably be out. He'll be with us on the trip, but I don't know if he'll be ready to go. But it was just good from an overall standpoint for the guys to have a chance to get away for a little bit, have a couple days off to re-energize as we go forward, trying to attack the second half of the season. But it came at a good time, and I think we're close to getting back to where we need to be, but not quite all the way there. Yeah, Billy was out moving around, looked really good today. Still noticed a slight limp at times, but other times he looked like he was full speed. So it was really, really good for him. The bye week was good for him. Anxious to see. When was it? Yesterday, because our schedule has been a little bit different. So yesterday and today were the first 2 days where he was really turned loose with the group, but I anticipate he'll be ready to go.
On the field during the bye week, what did you guys accomplish? What were you looking to accomplish? Things to shore up along those lines?
So you want to do a couple things. Depending upon where your health is, you use the bye week to build your team. But unfortunately, with where we are from a depth standpoint and this guy's being injured, we weren't able to do as much of that. But the coaches had a chance to do some disaster report review, just some of the things that we need to improve, being able to take a chance to look at all of our issues that we need to clean up and see what the culprits were, and then go attack those from a fundamental standpoint. You're able to get a head start on your opponent. You get about 6 days of practice. Biggest thing for us was an opportunity to grow some of the young depth because several of the guys, key guys, were down for a little while during the open week.
I've got all these questions about you doing this for the first time. So, first open date as the head coach, what was your role? I know the coordinators like to do the self-scout on. What was your role? Were you in on both? Were you overseeing?
Yeah, I spent most of my time just kind of evaluating the big picture, just looking at the staff. Make sure that work responsibilities and all those things are continuing to be followed. See if we needed to change anything just structurally from a program standpoint, and then really focusing on just where the guys are mentally and physically. That was my biggest focus this open week, is to make sure that structurally, with the way we structure practice, the amount of time off, the amount of contact that we had during the open week was enough to get us ready to play coming out of the open week, but also to help the guys heal, make sure that the focus early in the open week was on us and making sure that fundamentally we go back to work, taking some of the analysis that the coordinators did and making sure that we apply that, and then we just didn't rush right into Georgia Tech. So it was more just managing the coaches in their evaluation, making sure that we're not getting away from the fundamentals, because we're still a team that needs a lot of work fundamentally at every position. So wanted to emphasize that. Wanted to emphasize accountability from top to bottom in where we are in the first half of the season, and then kind of set the direction and the vision for where we're headed coming out of the open week.
What was sort of the takeaway of the analysis of the offense in terms of, is it married to the personnel you have now in an appropriate way?
Yeah, I think it's more just fundamentals and trusting your technique. Like in particular, I think we got 19 sacks on the season. You look at the sacks, and the majority of them were not coming when they brought pressure. It was more just guys, staying true to their fundamentals and their coaching and continuing to slide in their gap, having their eyes in the right place, making sure that we're not getting our shoulders turned when we're trying to pass off twists. Then you go to ball security. There were a couple of issues in ball security, but it all stemmed back to, how are we carrying the ball prior to contact? Not so much, getting ready for contact, anticipating contact, but is the ball in the proper position? Saw a lot of guys carrying the ball with their wrist below their elbow, and as soon as their wrist goes below their elbow, then you lose basically all power in any of your pressure points to secure the ball. But then more importantly, you always try to correct before contact. The problem with that is when you don't have proper ball security and you're trying to correct, you don't fully correct, and it creates opportunities. So So more of it was just guys trusting their technique. Then you saw youth at times show up, and then also challenging some of our older guys to be more consistent in making plays. We evaluated the drops and looking at the drops, and really wasn't anything other than guys, not finishing plays. Fundamentally letting the ball get behind your eyes. We talk a lot about that. You catch a football with your eyes, contrary to some people think you catch it with your hands, but you catch it with your eyes. So you got to follow the ball all the way into your hands, and hand placement is key. And so over the shoulder balls, if you don't shoot your hands into your peripheral, it's very, very hard to track the ball all the way to your hands. If you're trying to run before you catch the ball and you forget to look it in the last 6 inches of flight, you take your eyes off to see what's coming. A lot of times you can't anticipate the contact on your hands and you drop the ball. So more of it is just guys transitioning what they're doing in practice, trusting the direction that we're headed, trusting the scheme, but more importantly, just being disciplined to carry your fundamentals from practice into the game.
Coach, how have you kind of gone about framing this second half of the season to the team after the bye week?
Yeah, I mean, you got 6 opportunities, and you just look at college football. We got an opportunity to win all 6 of our games. Now we can't get ahead of ourselves. We gotta play well on the road. We gotta get our first road victory. So what we've been focusing on is getting our first road victory, and then from there building momentum. But I think the biggest thing is you got 6 opportunities for the seniors. That's all you got left. You can't waste a day. We started with the countdown. About 120 plus days, and now we're on 47 days until 2 teams are going to go advance to Charlotte to play for the championship. So, man, the days are going fast. You can't waste a day. And being honest and realistic with ourselves and owning the fact that we've underachieved based off of what our talent is. And so what's the gap? And the gap is we need to be a team. We got to come together, and we all got to do our job. We can't put all of the pressure on one side of the ball. It takes all 3 units, but we got an opportunity. We got 4 home games. We got 2 road games. And in my opinion, all those are winnable games with the team that we got. And so we don't need to focus on too much of what we did other than correct the mistakes from the first half. And then let's go do something special in the second half, and let's finish this thing the way that we want to.
It's also a homecoming for Nick Jackson. What have you just noticed about his approach this year as a senior and kind of how he's taken this season?
He's embraced the approach that I want to take is that the best teams are led from the locker room up. Obviously, myself and the staff, we have to set direction and define the vision, but then empower the guys in the locker room to lead. And he's caught on the quickest out of anybody. And so just really proud of one, how he comes to practice every single day. He's consistent in his demeanor. He doesn't change. Very, very energetic. Also, he's not afraid to challenge his teammates when they need to do better. So just really proud of the leadership and excited for him to have a chance. I heard him saying to all the guys, anybody that's not using their tickets, just pass them his way. So it sounds like it is going to be a homecoming for Nick Jackson down there in Atlanta. And, he's progressing, day to day, moving around, better than I anticipated, considering that the injury that he's coming off of. But I anticipate, man, he'll go out there and lay it on the line, and he'll give everything for this program.
In the Louisville game, Sackett-Wood caught 3 passes and showed some potential to run with the ball after catching it. Is he someone who you would like to get more involved in the passing game going forward?
We'd love for the tight end group, in general, because the whole premise and thought behind the 11 personnel, spread style of system is that you create a matchup advantage with your tight end. Whether it's on the Mike backer, on the Will backer, but you can create a matchup advantage because you got a big body that can run and catch the ball. And then also you have the flexibility to get into 2-back stuff by putting the tight end in the backfield. So both he and Mish and hoping to get Josh Rollins, more involved. And the more those guys can do, the less predictable you become, because now you can stay in 11 personnel and easily get to some of more your run-heavy sets, and then also spread them out and get into your empty and get into your 2x2 stuff. So you need to see him continue to emerge, Mish as well. And then hoping that with the way that Josh has been practicing, that we can get him some opportunities to see what he can do.
Stevie Bracey is also another guy who's going home. He shows up on the depth chart for the first time this season. What type of development have you seen from him?
You know, Bracey showed up here, and you could see early on that he's a football player. You know, that he loves football, that he's big, he moves well, loves contact, has a good foundation. It's just been in a situation where he's got some older guys with a little bit more experience, but with Ahern, you know, looking like he's not going to be able to go. So you got Nick, and we're trying to get a little bit more speed on the field. Obviously, Hunter's going to have to play for us and give us some good snaps, quality snaps, which he's done here in the past. But now Bracey's got to be ready to go. And again, with Nick in his situation, don't anticipate he'll be able to play as many snaps as he played in the past when he's still trying to progress through his knee. So, man, Bracey's got to show up. He's got to be ready to go. So I'm excited for him. I think he's excited. I can tell just in the conversation with him. You know, he's come to me probably about 5 times already this week, asking me questions like, "Coach, is this okay? This okay? Yeah, I know you're going home, bud. Yeah, but let's get that out of the way early. You know, get all those questions about tickets and all that kind of stuff out of the way because we're going to need you to lock in because you're getting ready to have to play some snaps for us."
On the offensive line, Jonathan Lee just played through an injury.
Yeah.
What's it been like watching him go through that process, and what's it meant to the team to have him play through that pain?
You know, it just shows his commitment to the program, and what I've seen is that, you know, he's learning to what I say go mind over matter, meaning that it doesn't matter how you feel, but have the mental toughness and let your mind control your body. And so what you're seeing now, and one of the things that I say to him, and I've been saying to him for the last couple of days, whenever I see him, I say, "Leach, what's on your hand?" And at first he wanted to say a cast, and then I said, "No, that's not the answer. Nothing's on your hand. That's how you have to approach it. You gotta think like there's no cast on my hand, because if I think that there's something on my hand, I'm not going to use it." And you saw right after the injury when he was cleared to play, you know, he wasn't using that hand, but now you're starting to see. And then when he wasn't using the hand, then what happens is now fundamentally his base, you know, is not where it needs to be, and he stops kick stepping, he starts backpedaling. Now he's trying to shoot and punch with one hand, but what you're seeing now is he's becoming more comfortable, and we need him. You know, him and Derek are the two guys, the older guys up front, that need to lead for us. And I think with his hands starting to feel better, him being more confident, now we can get some more leadership, you know, out of him. And that was something that we talked a lot about going back to one of the earlier questions. You know, I pulled up several quotes from John Maxwell, just talking to the guys first, indicating, and because, you know, I'll say things and they'll be like, "Oh, that's just Coach Elliott saying it," you know, and then I'll show them a clip of Nick Saban and they're like, "Oh, well, you're saying the same thing." Like, yeah, I'm saying the same thing. I mean, there's a certain mindset that winners have. But I share a lot of John Maxwell quotes, and the one I used yesterday is "Everything rises and falls with leadership." Right, so wanted to, you know, put some context to that. But one of the other things we talked about is, you know, leaders have a certain lifestyle, right? They live a certain way. That leadership doesn't come by position, right? Leaders define the position. Position doesn't define leadership. And then we talked about the pessimist. You know, he complains about the wind. The optimist believes it's going to change, and the leader adjusts the sails. You know, so just getting these guys, you know, to think from a leadership standpoint. And so, like in Derek and Leach, even though you haven't played, you know, significant amount of snaps, man, you're in a position to lead, right? So don't let that deter you from leading this football team.
Sounds like you also share the Al Pacino quote from Any Given Sunday a couple
Yeah.
times. Is that
A couple times.
personal favorite, and what are you?
Well, personal favorite, and then it's fresh on their minds because they've seen it. And then we went to see what's that movie we just saw it? Is it called Bullet Train? Is that a new movie that's like Bullet Train? Yeah, we went to go see Bullet Train, and there's a part in the movie where the guys, the elder statesman makes a comment. He says, "Either we work together or we die as individuals," which is very similar to what Al Pacino says. Either we heal as a team or we die as individuals. And so that's kind of been some of the things that are happening, you know, to us when we haven't been successful, is that, A, we're dying as individuals because we're not healing as a team. We're not coming together as a team. We got 11 guys on the field. We got 9 of them doing it right. We got 2 of them doing it wrong, right? And that's what cost you plays in a game, right? Or one guy has a bad play, well, then now it turns into 6 bad plays by other guys, you know. So just learning the concept of being able to pick each other up, moving on to the next play, but ultimately understanding that teams win. And we talked about college football this weekend. I think I was looking at the top 25, and there were 6 top 25 matchups. And only one of them did the higher seed win, and that was Michigan beat Penn State, right? The other 5 games, the lower seed won. And so, fellas, you got to play the game. It doesn't matter who's the more talented team. It's the team that shows up, right, and plays together that usually wins football games. So that's been a common theme. And just kind of and what I'm working towards is within the entire organization is where I start to hear the things that are being said by the leadership. And it's repetitive. And so that's why, that Al Pacino quote has come up a lot.
In terms of, and I know you guys focus week to week, one game at a time and all that, the value of a bowl game, not just as a reward,
Right.
the extra practice, especially
Correct.
when you're establishing, I know it's way down the line, but how important would a bowl game be for you laying this foundation?
Yeah, first of all, the mindset is, man, we want to play 15 games a season. That's the belief, that's the hope, that's what we're building for, and understanding that all of those additional practices and games that we earn are opportunities for our team to get better. But in particular, in the bowl game, you have an opportunity to really get your young guys some work. You have more time to prepare. You have more practices. You can be more intentional with structuring your practices to where we get the work done that we need to get done in preparation for the opponent. But then we also have specific time, whether it's 20 minutes, 30 minutes of practice to dedicate to the young guys. But over the course of 14 practices, that adds up really quickly. And you almost get the equivalent of spring ball when you start talking about a bowl game with the amount of time that you get to be on the field and prepare.
Of your true freshmen, Betridge is on there at kicker. You talked about Bracey, Boley's on there, Sean Wilson. But are there other
Xavier.
guys in that class? Yeah, Xavier Brown.
Yeah, Xavier
Are there
Brown.
other guys in the class who maybe are not playing or on the 2 deep, but are impressing in practice and giving you reason to believe that down the road they'll contribute?
Right. Houston Curry is in our 2 deep. He's listed in our 2 deep, and man, I'm really excited about him. I think the future is very bright at the tackle position between he and Boley. Boley obviously being a little bit physically ahead of him, ready to come in. I think an off season with Houston in the weight room, but man, he's got a great demeanor about him. He's tough. He loves football. We talked about JR. Trying to think, just go through Carson Gay. Man, I think Carson Gay is going to be special. I think he has a chance to be special. He's gained probably about 10, 12 pounds already. He's very explosive, natural pass catcher. He can run, and he loves football. He's a guy. I think Blake Steen, so far with what we've seen, is going to be a guy down the road that'll give us some added size and ability on the inside. He's been doing a great job challenging our D-line every single day in practice. We talked about Bracey. I think Trey McDonald is a guy that has now, because of the injury situation at linebacker, has been called up to getting reps with the group. But he's an athletic young man, needs the weight room to help build his body to where it needs to be. But he's violent, very, very coachable. So I'm excited. I'm excited about him. Trying to think of the other guys. Snoop really haven't had a chance to see as much out of Snoop. He's been out for a little bit here, dealing with the injury. TJ, man, TJ. I think he's going to be. I think Terrell's going to be special. Just we're fortunate enough to have some depth to where he can go into what we call power hour, and he's been lifting, but you're seeing his body starting to expand. He's going to be a guy for us in the future. So TJ. I'm trying to think of, just off the top of my head, I'm going by position. I think Delaney Crawford is special with the ball in his hands, and you're seeing that. Last week, he had a chance, or 2 weeks ago, he had a chance to be Malik in practice. And, man, let me tell you something. When that young man takes off, it's a little different speed than what they're used to seeing. So, but didn't have an opportunity because of the timing to really get in and compete. At quarterback, but I'm excited about him. Running back, we talked about X. Tight end, we talked about. That might be the class. Yep.
I don't think they necessarily know what power hour is, which
Oh,
is something
okay.
y'all brought from Clemson. If you want to explain that a little bit.
So Power Hour is just an opportunity for mostly your freshmen guys that are redshirting, but then any of your other guys that just need more time in the weight room. So the way we structure it, we carve it out. We get 20 hours a week, and then the varsity will usually lift twice a week for 30 minutes. But the way that I've structured is to give Smo, an hour pretty much every morning with those guys just in the weight room lifting. So those guys will come in before the varsity, so to speak, and they get after it in the weight room, and then they'll transition into position meetings on certain days, and then also transition into practice and be part of the scout team for us. But it's really an opportunity to develop their bodies, and take advantage of the time as opposed to, putting them on the maintenance lifting. Because right now in season, you're trying to maintain, and then certain times within the course of the season, you'll push a little harder just to kind of see if you can improve a little bit. But with the amount of practice that they have, it being a year-long calendar, right now during the season, your weights are structured to help them with soreness, flush the body, maintain their strength, and keep them healthy and strong going into the postseason.
Georgia Tech seems to have gotten a little bit more new life in the last
Yep.
few weeks. What do you see from them on tape, especially on Jeff Sims?
Yeah, he's a problem, man. He's a problem. He throws it, is much better than you want him to. Man, he's shown some accuracy on some down the field balls, and when he pulls the ball down and he takes off, now it takes 2-3 guys to tackle him. But what I've noticed is just having played Georgia Tech over the years, their offensive line now is starting to have more cohesion up front. They got some big bodies with some length. It looks like Sims is really comfortable in the system. He knows what he's doing. They're all typically headed in the same direction, and then the skill guys on the outside, man, they play hard and they take advantage of their opportunities. And then defensively, they're multiple, so they can create some havoc by jumping in and out of structure. And that's something we focused on this open week, is being able to handle the structure. I think when people line up, it's easy to target them. You can have some success. It's when you jump around and guys start moving is where that creates problems for any offense. But they're just playing with a lot more confidence. I think that their mindset is to take advantage of the situation and not let it be a detriment to them. So we know they're going to come out, they're going to play hard, they're going to be excited, but we got to make sure that we focus on us and we come out with the mindset that we want to play our best game from start to finish.
You mentioned that one of the things that you managed or watched during the open date, was mindset, where guys' heads are at. What have you seen from the receivers? You mentioned, analyzing the drops.
Yep.
Where are they mentally, emotionally? They've been turning down media requests, so are they a little frustrated?
Well,
where would you put them at?
Just to put it in context too, and I've had to evaluate myself too, right? And that's one thing that I try to make sure that I do, is hold myself accountable and improve where I need to improve. And so just putting context to it right out the gate, I'm an ex-receiver. I coached receivers for 5 years, right? And that was the alpha group. And I kind of went after the group and challenged them in a positive way. Like, okay, if this is the best group on the team, then we need to lead. And I think that was a little different approach than maybe had been the approach in the past. And so it took a little bit of time for them to kind of get to know me and what my expectations are, and understand that, man, I'm going to push KT and I'm going to push Wicks the hardest, and Billy the hardest. But Billy wasn't in practice in the spring, and then have high expectations. And I think you're dealing with young people that don't really know how to deal with not meeting expectations. And so those guys have worked through it. I'm proud of them. You're starting to see that they're becoming a cohesive unit, that they're challenging each other. As before, it kind of would be, all right, drop the ball. All right, well, we don't want to drop balls. Now it's, man, catch the ball. Hey, we got to do our job. So you're starting to see those guys take a little bit more ownership. And truth be told, with the system that Des runs, with some of the pro background, you can put guys in position, right? You can kind of move guys around. And again, that was all new to him, right? And so that group, you're asking a lot, especially in the passing game. when you're trying to do those things. So we learned that, we got to back off a little bit, try to kind of understand, where they've come from, what they're used to, and then try to, mesh what we're doing to be able to fit those guys. But we go as they go, and I think that now they understand that, hey, there's a reason why we were so hard on you, to begin with, because we know that you guys got to lead. And I think just like all the other guys, with the exception of Nick, they're now starting to understand, how I'm trying to empower them to lead their locker room, so that I don't have to do every single thing, because the reality is I don't know all the things that are going on because I'm not in there, right? And there's going to be certain things that you're not going to tell me, but knowing what the expectation is, right? And again, you got to take into consideration kind of where this generation is, with all of us, man. We got a phone, we can hide behind a phone, and there's not as accountability like it used to be, right? There used to be a lot of accountability for all of us, and people would be able to speak their mind and call each other out. So they're getting used to that, and that's a group right there. And I'm not talking about any of these individuals, but I've always said it, coaching wideouts, they have the biggest egos and the lowest self-esteem. Right? They have to have huge egos, right? Because of where they play. They play on the outside. Everybody's eyes follow the ball. Everything that they do is magnified, right? But at the same time, too, you can get caught up in some of those things. So it's been fun, right, to watch those guys kind of persevere through the adversity. And I'm excited to see the second half. I've seen a little different, sense of urgency out of those guys. And proud of the quarterback, too, proud of Brennan. Because, I've asked him, man, take ownership of this football team, not just the offense. You and Nick need to be leading side by side, right? Him on defense, you on offense. But more importantly, man, let the receivers know what your expectations are. And so now you're starting to see that the conversations in practice are more organic, right? As opposed to me pulling them together and say, hey, y'all talk. Now it's a little bit more organic because it's a learning curve for all of them. Right, so Brennan's learning a new system. They're learning a new system. Right, that chemistry has to be built, but it can't be fabricated. Right, it's got to be authentic, and it's taking a little bit of time. But I'm excited about that group. Man, they all want to do well. They all want to to perform at the highest level. But it starts in practice. And it starts in your demeanor every single day and pushing through, and then also too availability. What you've seen is those guys have had to push through some injury too. Billy's been up and down. Then Wicks was out last week or went out in the game. And KT's an old man. I call him the old man. He's always got something that's nagging. So just kind of continuity, consistency. All of that within the group has been fun to see those guys accept that challenge and persevere. And I'm excited to see what they're going to do down the stretch.
Follow-up topic, which was Brennan, the mindset, but also workload. I mean, in the past when he was throwing 50 times a game, they worried about not making him throw too much in the off week. You got more balance now. What did you do with him workload? Was there a day off? How did you manage him?
No, I think with the way we structure practice with Monday being more of a mental day, coming off of a game. So if you play on Saturday, the players are off on Sunday for recovery. Monday is more of a mental day, so there'll be a lot of meetings. We're only on the practice field for about an hour, not throwing as many down the field balls, cleaning up mistakes from the previous game, getting an introduction. Tuesday and Wednesday is a heavy day for us, and then Thursday is just more of a polish. And truth be told, there's been a couple of Thursdays throughout the course of the week where Brandon said, hey, I don't want to throw the ball down the field. So we ran the plays to get timing with everybody else, and then we don't throw the ball down the field. So we've managed a little bit of that, but no real conversation to say we need to shut him down. He hasn't complained anything about his arm hurting. We track all of their movements. I think with the different approach that we have with quarterbacks in our strength and conditioning, with the amount of stretching, the amount of yoga activities that we do, the amount of core strengthening, all those things contribute to effectively throwing the football. So it's not just your arm that takes the wear and tear.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
All right. Appreciate y'all.